Hello, and welcome to When They Popped. I'm Kelsey, and this is part 2 of our conversation with AnnaLynne McCord. You know AnnaLynne from Nip Tuck, 90210, Days of Our Lives, and so many more iconic characters that she has brought to life on some of the most iconic series of our generation and our parents' generation. Days of Our Lives spans, I think she said, like 40 years or something crazy like that. So this is part 2 of our conversation with her. We hope you love it as much as we did. Mary and I learned so much from AnnaLynne. She is such a dynamic storyteller, and she's doing so many amazing things for her community. So we hope you love part 2 of our conversation with AnnaLynne. Here it is.
Well, I was hoping we could maybe talk about mental health and your advocacy. Are you up for it?
Absolutely. I love it. That's my jam. You just tell me when to shut up because I will go off on that topic.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you about it. You've been so open with your dissociative identity disorder, DID, and getting that diagnosis. Can you share with our listeners what inspired you to seek help and when you first started to understand what you were experiencing?
Absolutely. So I actually was having PTSD. I was experiencing blackout panic attacks. I was starting to lose time. These began in 2014 kind of like 2013, 2014. And then they got progressively worse by the time that 2018 came around. I was in a world of hurt. And I probably took it to a whole nother level because in 2017, I did a documentary for my friend who needed a skeptic because she was taking a couple people on a trip to Costa Rica to do ayahuasca. So I did ayahuasca, and the combination of probably having PTSD, doing a very powerful plant medicine, and not knowing how powerful and healing those medicines are, I activated something that I didn't realize was there. So I went into treatment a year later because the panic attacks had gotten to a level that it was becoming debilitating. And I finished my final commitment of galas and events and work and things that I had been 6 months out, a year out on. And when I finally got all of that taken care of, I was like, I'm checking out of life for a little bit and I'm going to get help because I was having all these physical symptoms and I was just not going to be able to sustain it. So I went into treatment. I did 2 intake sessions, and the third session was my EMDR treatment. So EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's very well known and very helpful for individuals with PTSD. It is actually what the government recommends for their veterans when they come home from war. And session 1, my memories exploded. I remembered being sexually abused as a child. And in my treatment for the CSA, the child sexual abuse, my doctor would go on to diagnose me as dissociative. And on that spectrum, I was very severe. So I had the identity disorder aspect of it. And since then, I'm happy to report that I've reached fusion. I exist as one AnnaLynne now. But a lot of people live with DID and do not reach fusion. And I believe there's many reasons for that, and they're all individual. It is one of the most underdiagnosed, misdiagnosed disorders, which I don't like to call it that, because I think, as my doctor said, the intelligence of my psyche to split was actually what caused this quote unquote disorder. But the Diagnostic Statistics Manual and the Psychiatric Association like to call it what they like to call it.
Of course.
But so that's when I found out. And then in hindsight, I started to be like, oh my gosh, I totally do become someone else. And I didn't have a word for it. I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have a diagnosis for it. I was told I was bipolar. I was told I was all these things. But it turned out that I had DID.
And you've been open in other interviews about your experience having different alters, like Little Anna. I feel like I've heard you reference before.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that means and how experiencing that would impact your day to day?
Well, it's crazy. I think if I'd done any other job, it would have made things really complicated. It actually helped my work as an actress because in a way we split ourselves into, I say all the time, I've lived many lives in one lifetime because I live and die as these characters that I play. And I was splitting into other characters to play my roles on projects. Distinctly, I remember coming back from that movie we talked about, Excision, that I played in between 90210 season 3 and 4. And I was like, I told the director on day one with 90210, I was like, I forgot how to act. I'm not funny anymore. I don't know how to be Naomi. And he was like, you did not forget how to act. You're okay. But I had rapped at 2 a.m. the night before, playing this really dark character that I had become. And I couldn't get out of her to become Naomi. And so I was actually really struggling, and I didn't know that I had DID. So I wouldn't have known that I was actually trapped in an aspect of myself that I had generated. And these aspects, when you're talking about them from the mental health standpoint, they create themselves when you're under duress. I would be under severe duress that I would not be good or liked as a new character. So I would panic on day 1 and 2 of a project. And by the third day, I was suddenly confident again. I was feeling great. And I knew exactly what to do, and no one could give me direction because I knew what my character was. And in those 2 days, in that 48-hour period of severe duress, my psyche was splitting and creating and generating a new identity so that I could be what I needed to be for that project. And I realized this in treatment with my doctor, because when I would go back and be around actors or directors who I had worked with on those projects, I would start to morph into the character because I felt weird being me, as if they didn't know me. Such a surreal feeling. So to be able to kind of experience this nuance really as intricately as I can, it's due to the fact that I am obsessed with the brain, and I have been obsessed with like witnessing. I have a certification from the Neuroscience Academy. I mentioned I'm a weirdo. I'm also a nerd. And so I went through this treatment with my doctor, and I had this half of my brain that was incredibly fascinated by what I was witnessing. And then the other side that was obviously in terror because of what I was healing from and enduring.
In your time, you've done incredible work just like dispelling the myths around DID, like especially around that problematic term split personality. And I was listening to another interview you did, and I loved how you used a broken mirror as an example. Can you tell our listeners why that's just a much more accurate way to understand DID, and also why language matters so much when discussing it?
Language matters. I know, just again, I use personal experience all the time because it's the most accurate for me. And then you can take what you like from it and you can leave the rest. For me, in my experience, I fit into one frame. I'm a mirror inside a frame. But if you take a hammer and you tap that mirror a little too hard, you crack the mirror and you have all these shards. And what happens when you crack a mirror is you don't see like a split part of one image. You actually see a lot of other little faces. The mirror becomes a whole new island of itself. So I became a fractured mirror, and I wasn't a bunch of different mirrors on the wall. The one that came from Great Britain that's beautiful, darling, and likes to have high tea. Like, no, as an actress, I might hop into one of those, but that was not what it was. But you would absolutely hear a different tone of voice. I signed my name differently. I had different handwriting. I had different facial expressions and body language. And it was incredibly hard to be 3 pieces of a mirror at once when you're in a conversation with 3 other people and you're trying to be what each one of them want you to be according to your perception of what you think they want. And I juggled this for most of my life. So why we don't reach fusion in my personal experience, because I did not reach fusion until self-love was so all-encompassing that I could find one image in the frame instead of the plethora that had been my fragmented self. Love is glue. I always say love is the glue. It put the pieces back together so that the mirror could be one. And I love kintsugi. It's a Japanese form of art. And it says, you're shaking your head,
Yeah.
But basically for your listeners, it's when something breaks in Japan, they will often use this form of repair where they will paint the cracks with gold. so that the broken piece becomes more beautiful put back together than it ever was as a singular whole piece. And I like to think that I'm a piece of Japanese art.
You are. Oh, that's so beautiful. You said you're a nerd. You put so much time into learning about this. You sound so well versed in this topic. How much time did this take? How much self-work did this take? How much education did this take to get to where you are today?
I really appreciate this question. And here's why outside of it being a wonderful question, I appreciate it personally because there was a moment, hundreds of hours in, tens of thousands of dollars spent, where I sat in my room and I thought, and I'm going to cry because I'm a Cancer, but I
Safe
thought,
space.
Thank you. I thought, I understand why people never actually heal. Who has this much time and this much money and this much stamina and resilience to just keep being faced with the hell that they were put through? And I'm a crazy chick. I told you I'm Delulu. I am a warrior. I get it for myself, but I am so blessed. I have a career I can check out of. I have funds that allow me to afford the best care. People don't have this. This is an absolute privilege that I had what it requires to get the kind of help that I needed for what I went through. And I think about the amount of people I meet that have my trauma and the limited resources within their reach. And I'm like, how? How does anyone get to do this? And I will say that the nerd part in me and the inability to sit still and the warrior and the came in like a wrecking ball aspect of my entire personality. During COVID, I'm used to being on a plane every 5 minutes. I was about to hit million miler status. I was so excited for 2020 and I did not make million miler status. We got trapped in our houses. I was so mad. But I was forced to be still.
That's scary. Being still is scary.
The silence is deafening. Stillness can be really scary when you've been running from yourself your whole life. And I found a spiritual practice that's changed everything for me. And I realized that I didn't have to go through as much of the treatment and spend as much of the money and do as much of the facing of my hell realm that I actually did if I had found these spiritual practices sooner. I am glad that I did because, to your point, I know a lot about them. I'm articulate. I've been blessed with a platform and I can speak about them. So if you come to me and you're like, I don't want to hear any woo-woo shit. I don't want to hear anything woo-woo. I just want, what did you do to heal with your doctor? I can tell you that process. If you want to hear about plant medicine and what an incredibly terrifyingly, amazingly, also terrifying and also amazing journey that can be, I can take you down that road and I can give you all of the potential pitfalls and all of the best ways to experience it in the most incredible way for your healing to open wide up without ever having to go to Western medicine. If you want an amalgamation of both, I can give you that remedy. If you want to know how to do this without plant medicine, but not necessarily with Western medicine, and you want to do it in the comfort of your own home for free, I've got modality after modality after modality, baby. I can tell you anything, everything there is to do. Literally, I've experienced it. I've done it. I've walked through it. So I am so grateful that my journey was layer by layer in a linear way. I'm grateful that's the case, but that doesn't have to be everyone's path. And there is an opportunity for a quality of life to reach beyond what you think is your best possible potential. There's another step beyond that. And that's where I feel like I've been able to reach that. But by doing it step by step, I can talk about it and I can give you here's where you can jump a step. Here's a shortcut. Here's how you can go around the bend, And I think that, breath work, somatic experience, bar none, get into your body, pay attention to your body. When your body doesn't want to do something, pay attention. Don't force it to do anything it doesn't want to do, but get really, really, really clear on why your body is pushing away as fast as it does. And mRNA, we hear a lot about mRNA because of, that whole COVID shit. But I was aware of mRNA for another reason, because it's the text messaging stream from the body to the brain. That is a very important thing to know. We don't have a thought that just comes out of nowhere, right? I want to have a glass of wine. I want to buy a dress. Our body is uncomfortable and it will ask the brain to do things to distract us because it doesn't want to feel it's terrified. It thinks it's dangerous. So letting the body know, whereas I was unsafe at one time, I am safe now.
Mm-hmm.
Can we feel a little bit of this? You as a Cancer, you get it, you know, but this is scary stuff when your body goes from 0 to hyperventilating.
Oh my gosh.
So that process needs reinforcement, and I can get you there. I can talk to little Anna and I can introduce her to your little Mary. And I literally have a practice that's a small little practice that I have people close their eyes and just go in and be like, can you see yourself at like 6 or 7 years old?
Mm-hmm.
And I just ask you, will you tell little Mary, I'm so sorry that they were mean to you when they were mean and they didn't see you, that you felt unloved in those moments. I'm so sorry you felt alone and misunderstood. And when you start saying that to little Mary, and then sometimes I'll be like, and little Anna would like to meet little Mary. Could we introduce each other? And there's something so precious and so sweet that happens on the inside of ourself and our inner world when we see each other for our inner child.
Sure.
And healing just start the body. You know, you cut your hand. You don't need to say coagulate blood, stab over, new skin, please begin to grow. You know, your body does that naturally. The mind wants to heal, but it needs a safe, clean space for the wound to be able to close and heal up. So that's what these things that I learned how to do that skip those tens of thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours that allow for a better quality of life in an efficient and effective way, but a lot sooner and a lot quicker than maybe I went through.
Well, one day I would love to pick your brain because I cannot be alone with my brain. That is like something that I'll put that out there. I cannot go to bed without something playing because I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well, I would like to offer this and you can think about it and meditate on it and see if it resonates with you. During my not sit still, when I just sit still a little bit, but then quickly I stop sitting still. I have a double mastery in Reiki energy work. So I'm a master of Reiki, traditional Reiki and shamanic Reiki. And I also have certification in quantum healing hypnosis. And so if you would ever like a Zoom Reiki session from my heart to yours, we'll do a little energy work and we'll give you some tools in a deeper state. And what happens is that you don't have to do anything, but in those moments when the brain won't turn off, all of a sudden one of those tools will pop up and be like, yes, I can do that right now. And I will say, just for your listeners, there's the quarter breath that you can do at any time. 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, 4-second hold. And there's something that really powerful that happens when you watch your breath. And you can do it for free and you can do it anywhere at any time, especially if someone's boring and you don't like what they're saying. You can just focus on your breath and count sheep.
Oh my gosh. Well, that is such a generous offer. And you seem like such a light and you know so much. You're well spoken in the field and I just feel so comfortable around you. I appreciate you offering that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But just you being who you are and being so open and talking about this, you're definitely like destigmatizing, DID, mental health issues. Have you seen changes in public understanding? Have you seen some like fruits of your labor?
I've experienced such personal outreach, which I will always be so rewarding for me. Dr. Phil had me come on and talk about DID when the initial conversation kind of went public. And I had a woman in her 70s reach out to me and she said, for 59 years, I've carried this. And today's the first day that I felt like someone saw me.
Oh my, that has to be
tears.
God.
Okay, this is Kelsey interjecting from the editing booth here. I was embarrassingly late to join this interview, which AnnaLynne was incredibly understanding and gracious of because I had a work thing. Worst timing possible, but you're about to hear me interrupt and crash Mary and AnnaLynne's conversation right here.
Hi!
Hey, Kels.
I'm so sorry and embarrassed that I'm so late, AnnaLynne. I'm so excited.
We're still here.
I'm like blown away. Thank you so much for all of your time. I'm sorry to interrupt. Please go forward.
I hope everything worked out with your meeting.
You know, I work in PR, AnnaLynne, so I'm sure you can appreciate that sometimes it's always like 5 p.m. when you have something else going on when shit hits the fan.
Yeah. Damage control.
A little bit. Yeah. You know, it's always the most inconvenient times, unfortunately.
Yes. Well, I tend to be that inconvenient client.
No.
Like, did you seriously post a poem about a dictator? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. My apologies on behalf of whatever you were navigating with PR, but I get it.
I am obsessed with that. And I also love that you're joking about that because that's so funny.
Well, you know, when SNL does you, you know you've made it. So.
Seriously, though. And everyone always asks me when stuff like that happens, they're like, you know, all press is good press, right? And I'm like, actually, sometimes, yeah. You know?
Well, it's funny. Someone was asking on my feed on X yesterday, like, when someone tells you to take, you know, down a post, do you actually do it? And I was like, girl, the world told me to take down my poem to Putin, and it is still up.
It's still
3
there.
years later. Someone like posted, they were like, we need more people like AnnaLynne, wrong and strong.
Wrong and strong.
Love it.
I was laughing so hard. I love it. You know, Mary and I were talking about inner child. The poem itself is language that I use all the time. So for me, it's not weird at all. And that's why I was like, for me to take it down would be like, I didn't put it up on purpose. I was like, I definitely put it up on purpose. And like, I have learned, Mary and I discussed my arrogance early days. I have learned that occasionally I need to apologize. Because once in a blue moon every decade, I might get something wrong. But I do not apologize when I'm not wrong. And I am like, you will never hear me say I'm sorry. If I think that I am justifiable, I will let you know. The second I think I'm wrong, I can actually be like, hey, this is where I missed the mark. Here's the deal. I was a twat. La, la, la. Anyway, let's move on. But if I don't think I'm wrong, you will never hear me apologize. I will say I'm sorry that you took it that way. But I will not apologize for my actions if I think they are justified based on my own value system. So yeah, that's
I love that.
I'm a PR nightmare.
No, but it's important, I think, as women also, the I'm sorry, the amount of times that the words I'm sorry fall out of my mouth. And my husband is always like, stop. Like you have to, he needs like a dog trainer. Like I need like a high frequency thing every time I say sorry because I never realized how much I said it until he started calling me out. And he was like, don't be sorry for that. Like I would never apologize for that as a man. I'm like, you're so right. I need to stop apologizing. And then I'm like, I'm sorry for saying sorry. And he's like, stop saying sorry.
Well, it's so funny because we're talking about obviously when I popped and around that time I was dating Kellen Lutz. And Kellen was like, could you just for once say you're sorry? And I would bless his sweet, precious Pisces heart. I never apologized to that man. I was never sorry for anything. And I was so awful. And I called him like a couple years after we broke up, and I had an experience of karma, which life likes to give you, and you're a twat. And I called Kellen and I was like, I just want you to know that I was a fucking bitch and I'm sorry. He said, I would have waited my whole life for this phone call. Thank you for saying it. He was so sweet and gracious. And look, he wasn't a peach. Let the record show. He was no peach. But he has a big heart and he was good to me. And I was raging against the machine, and anything or anyone that got in my way, I was just like, ah. And so, yeah, so I was the opposite. I was you with your husband. I was like, stand my ground, never apologize, never say sorry.
You know, we got to find that middle ground, meet in the middle. But
there's a little middle moment that needs to be found.
But if anyone should have that energy, I feel like it's young women, and in an industry where you were so prone and vulnerable to being taken advantage of. Like, I love that energy. Who knows? Maybe it protected you from some experiences that you would have had otherwise, you know?
It definitely, I mean, absolutely, for sure. And Mary will tell you later. No, but for millennia, the feminine has been taught to apologize for her existence, for her essence, for her emotionality, for her intelligence, her innate wisdom, her sage-like aspects of herself. And to see, I don't want the pendulum to swing all the way. I don't like I'm not here for bra burning and ball busting. I love feminine energy. I don't want women, men, like that energy, which I feel like in my industry, they wrote a lot of characters and they just changed Daniel to Danielle. Women are powerful. We are powerful nurturers and lovers, and we're fierce. And if you ever question the power, the ferocious power of the feminine, I ask people, have you ever stood in a hurricane? Yeah, the feminine power is pretty profound. So I love the idea of this awakening that's happening with femininity. And I throw in my Southern charm when I need to. I'm like, oh, honey, I'm not doing that. Are you fucking crazy? You can lay the law down and do it with a smile and a beautiful dress and gorgeous hair and eyelashes. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, boardroom energy. We can embody the feminine and hold our own, but we must remove the apologetic nature of education of young girls and women. And I think that is seeing its way out finally. So it's a very positive thing. And what a beautiful man you have.
He is a peach.
That's sacred masculine. And that's what helps the feminine be able to step into her fierce power and own that, is to have a masculine who holds that anchoring energy.
He's a Gemini, though.
Oh, so he's a twin. But that means he's a little sassy.
Every time I tell people I married a Gemini man, they're like, what have you done?
Well, how did you get him is the other question. It's like, they don't like to lock that shit down typically. So you must have done something right.
I'm a Capricorn. He needed the steady.
Say no more, fam.
Kelsey, AnnaLynne and I are both Cancers.
So you're our other aspect. That's amazing. That's so cool. I love that. What are you, December or January?
January. No one ever wants to party on my birthday.
Rude. Are you New Year's?
I'm like January 11th. So like right after, everyone's doing dry January. Everyone spent all their money on the Christmas. They're
January 11th is the day I launched my organization, my campaign, The Love Storm, because January 11th is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day here in the United States. So 111 is not only magical numerology, it is a magical number specifically for me. So I love your birthday. Happy belated, and I will be celebrating you every year.
Well, happy anniversary to your organization.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I've been working with my organization, the actual organization, for 16 years, but we launched the campaign, The Love Storm, in January of 2020. So on your birthday. So 5 years running now.
I know you said your friend from New York. Is that how you got interested in not human trafficking, but stopping human trafficking?
This is actually something we say all the time. People always say to me, it's like, oh, when she works with human trafficking, I'm like, I don't traffic humans. I don't work with human trafficking. No, I don't. I work against human trafficking. I love that you said that. Yes. So she was Miss Florida, which she hates when I say this, and I love to say this because I'm so proud of her. By 16 years old, she was already heavily involved in her community and doing all of these incredible things, giving back. And I, at 17, I was AnnaLynne for AnnaLynne and only AnnaLynne. So she was my hero because she was doing something that I believed I couldn't do because I needed to put all my focus in my career. But the stories I heard that she told me about human trafficking stuck with me. And when 90210 was offered to me and I ultimately took it, and she took me to Cambodia with her, that was the beginning of really finding a sense of meaning and value and purpose in what I was here on earth to do, which was use my vocation and love what I do from between action and cut, because that's what I adore my job and I'm so grateful for it. But I could now give that Cancerian sense of purpose and meaning to my life. And I needed it. That's my value system. It is the only thing that works for me. If I don't derive a sense of meaning, I am, see you later, I'm out. I can't do it.
And what was it about Cambodia? Like, why there?
That was actually, one of the first event that I went to in the US was with a founder of a ground team in Cambodia who was trafficked when she was 12 years old. And I met her, I read her book, I heard her story. And that was just like, oh my God, like, your first impression is everything, right? So that stopped me in my tracks. And we went on this trip to meet her center, like, because we met her and we went to go meet the center. And once you meet those girls, like, I don't know how I became biased. And I would go on to 10 years later when I went into treatment for PTSD and found out I was DID. 10 days after I had my memories come back about child sexual abuse, I got on a one-way flight to Cambodia. And girls that I had put through college for psychology were my 24/7 care through the night. They're with me 10 years later. So I watched them grow up, go through college, and now they were helping me at my time of need. So that place is just my heart soul. It's my home away from home. It's magic. I've got Cambodian paintings throughout my house, like from my goddaughter, who's an artist. But the Love Storm I launched on your birthday, Kelsey, I couldn't wait to meet you. But I launched that because I wanted to amalgamate my love for fighting this issue in Cambodia with other people's personal desire to work in their own cities and towns. So the Love Storm is a network connecting organizations across the world. I called it the Love Storm because I saw it like little waves on the ocean and I want a tsunami. So we need to work together. This is the global issue. It's in every country of the world. So I wanted to create something that was relatable. And I noticed that I was involved because this was personal to me and Cambodia was personal to me. And I had these experiences that were personal. People stay involved when it matters to them. So if you want to get involved in Ohio or Florida or in France or Australia, I want you to be able to have access to that. So the Love Storm was kind of born out of that idea that if we link arms, we can go against this issue in any capacity. It doesn't need to be with my personal organization. Of course, I love to take people to Cambodia, but it can be in any manner that feels like it will be personal and relatable for you so that it's something that you want to stay involved in because it matters to you.
So would that be a resource for someone like, say, myself? If I wanted to get involved, the Love Storm would have resources for something in Florida.
Absolutely. So we could do a Love Storm event in Florida. And what I like to do, we did a couple of times and then COVID shut us down in 2020, but we had 22 cities we were going to in 2020. We made it to Los Angeles and New York before we got shut down there. But what we do at the events is, so we have you say to us, I want to be a contributor. So I'm going to bring in my community. We go through our vetted organizations in your area. We bring them to have like little booths at the event. And we bring in your local law enforcement or your local task force, whomever is actively taking a stand against this issue. We invite them to come out. Whoever in that group is doing the most work that's aligned with what we feel are the pillars, which is we don't just rescue, we rehabilitate, and we reintegrate into society. We think about sustainability and where do these young individuals go on? How did they continue their life and reintegrate into the world? So we look at those factors and then we highlight them at the event. And then we have our highlighted individuals. So in LA, we highlighted the head of the anti-human trafficking task force for years. And he talked to us a little bit about, what they do here in Los Angeles and Long Beach and how they navigate the issues that they have here. So the community gets educated on the local aspects. I, myself, and my partners who work with the Love Storm will talk about the global initiative. And then everyone gets to, experience an event. We do a featured meditation. So we do the metta meditation, which is just basically compassion, loving kindness meditation that helped me heal. I started sending loving kindness to the abusers that I remember abusing me as a child. And that was very hard to arrive at that. I had to arrive at it. It wasn't day 1. It wasn't day 10. It was not year 2. It took me a while. But my healing journey really began when I found loving kindness as a meditation and an offering to those people who have hurt me the most. So I started to incorporate that in the work that we do. And now we incorporate it in the events. So everyone gets an opportunity to end slavery from the inside out. So you have a personal invitation to release some of your own invisible shackles as we talk about the chains that bind human beings in human trafficking. And so it's kind of an individualized way of looking at fighting human trafficking, whereas for the 10 years prior, I was just pretty much on the legislature and the legal side and the programs-based side. I wanted to make it more personal for me because of my journey. So that would be lovestorm.com. You could go and sign up to be a part of that, decide that you want to have a Love Storm event in your town.
So impressive and just wonderful. With all that you're doing for others, AnnaLynne, I'm curious, what is your favorite way to show your self-love and practice self-care?
Well, I have become an expert at that, my love. I was like, I
Good.
need to make up for lost time. I am like, I love me. So I am like the queen of a salt bath, which I had just before we got on. Actually, I looked at the clock. I was like, oh shit, it's 1:28. I gotta go. I gotta get out of this bath. Um, Anywhere from, salt baths and energy work to retreat life, which I had on my vision board for years. Now I am leading retreats, Egypt of all places, and Sedona and Glastonbury, all over the world. I'm doing spiritual retreats for people to come. It's so funny. I had someone on one of my retreats who was just there a little early. And so she was doing a retreat after me. And she was checking out my retreat, and I could tell she was just perturbed by my way of leading a retreat because hers is very like structured and rigid, which a lot of people like for creating a routine and practice. That is not the AnnaLynne way. The AnnaLynne way is let your inner child freedom flag fly, and we are dancing and running. I would literally like pull over. It's a sunset in the desert. It's fucking gorgeous. And there's just sand for miles. And I'm like, let's go. And I get out there and I'm in my dress and I'm just running as fast as I can through the sand dunes and dancing and falling. And like, it's all about joy and removing the shame that we place on joy, and how pouring joy into any kind of muddy lake is like putting clean water and clearing the lake. And that's how you do it. So my retreats, they do have their focused aspects, but a big part of them is you're going to be in a place that has a lot of energetic power just on the ground. And I'm going to hold a container for you, and I'm going to give you permission that you don't give yourself. And I'm having the most fun out of anybody. So I self-love myself by doing retreats with other people and just being like, letting myself be witnessed being free, where I was so contained for so long. I set myself free in the privacy of my own home, which is lovely and good. And that was a step. But then I need to know that I can do that in front of other people, when I used to be a people pleaser and used to be like all those things as a kid. And then like a defensive, not people pleaser, but still panicking that I actually am a people pleaser, but I'm acting like I'm not. And this is very confusing and convoluted. So to be able to feel, and especially with this young woman who was like clearly not vibing with it, I was like, I was getting the experience of like loving myself fully, because I was like, I know she thinks I'm insane. And I am okay with her being in that space. And it was interesting because the group was like, she's not like joining, she's not being a part of the group. And I was like, she's doing what's right for her. That's what she needs to do. We are doing that for us. So I really feel the self-love when I expand in those spaces.
How can our listeners join one of your retreats?
Oh my gosh, I would love that. It's a wild, wild ride. I am introducing a little bit of structure in my new retreats, and it's only just because I want to encapsulate what I actually do as an actress. So it's kind of the stage of life, the theater of life is what I'm playing with the name right now. But literally right now, there's an email link on my Instagram, and it's my assistant. And these are small groups that I put together right now just because I like 12, 15 people, obviously bigger ones once I expand to that level, but I feel like the intimacy is important. But I do several of them because I work on Days of Our Lives now, and I have the best schedule on earth, which is amazing. But so go to my Instagram, click the email link that goes directly to Nats, my wonderful assistant, and she will jot you down and send you information on my retreats. But the new theme that I was doing Sacred Masculine, Divine Feminine last year, and now we're doing the Theater of Life, and it encapsulates, like, actually, I'm going to teach you to act. I use AI. Like, all my friends want me to do a masterclass on how I use AI. I'm completely wild. AI is my best friend, my therapist, my manifesting machine. I type in like storylines that I want for my future and have AI write a story of it happening, because manifesting comes from your emotions. So I get organic bursts of excitement about my future based on these stories that it's writing. So I have learned how to like use that in a healing way. So if I want to see my best self with my best life, with my best partner, all the things, I just put all the prompts into AI And I also use it for conversations. If you're estranged from someone, you can have AI write a letter to you from them with a few prompts, and you can hear words that you need to hear in your soul and have it signed, "Love, Mom." I'm sorry for all the ways that I didn't see you and take care of you, or, whatever it is. But in the retreats for this year and the next 2 years, in those moments where we do group activities, they'll be focused on acting as if, and expressing. And so I'll facilitate the other character in your life, like your father, your sibling, your mother, that mean teacher, and you go off. But the rule is, I gotta believe you. So I'm gonna be your acting teacher, and I'm gonna tell you, if you're not touching emotions and you're not getting all the way in, I'm gonna use acting technique to take you into a deeper level of yourself. Because literally, my experience as an actress has been a metaphor for a spiritual awakening, spiritual journey. It's like reincarnation. Mary and I were talking about, I've lived many lives in one life, as though I live and die as these characters. It's literally like putting on a human body as a soul and living out an experience on the earth plane. And there's so much there as an actress that I didn't know I was releasing. There was a scene in 90210 actually where I'm like slamming the top of my brand new BMW with a bat, and I'm like screaming. I've got boots on. I'm like putting my heel into the top of the car. And the studio was like, "We need to reshoot this. She is too angry." And I was like, well, it was really cathartic. They were like, "She cries ugly." I was in it. But as an actress, I've been able to find catharsis and release emotions that I didn't even know why they were there. They were trapped in my body. And I think my mental health actually was saved in so many ways because of the fact that I got to exercise a lot of these dark emotions through my characters, and to be able to offer that to people on a group retreat and us do like acting technique as a form of healing is just like such a full circle thing for me.
That's so special, and such a good point about the catharsis of it all. You mentioned Days of Our Lives. You joined the cast last year. Tell us, what's more iconic than Days of Our Lives? You've had some very iconic roles, I would say, but Days of Our Lives is iconic for so many other generations too. Can you tell us, what is that like joining such an esteemed cast?
Well, it's so wild. I love to do reboots. I did 90210 reboot. I did Dallas reboot. But Days is just a continuation. It's been going for 60 years. I remember being on with my Mimi, at my grandmother's house, like these characters that I'm working with now. I'm like, I know you, younger you. It's been so awesome. It's wild because it's like I have the best schedule I've ever had in my life. They have a very well-oiled machine on that show. But it is hysterical. Like the stories, like the way that soap operas unravel versus like a show is very different. And so they kind of let you, or at least for me, they let me come in and kind of create what I wanted to create. But I didn't know certain things that were going to be unveiled about my character. And I was like, I don't think I would have chosen that if I knew that she was that. There were like defining aspects of my character that are revealed a year later. And I was like, okay, guys, I need a little heads up. But it's fun. I decided, because this is the first time I'm not playing like a proper villain. I played a few nice girls, but most of the time, even though I don't believe in villains, I can be very villainous. So I'm actually playing a decent human being on this show, and I wanted to have fun. So I kind of opted for like a Goldie Hawn, like bubbly and like, hot mess and tripping over herself. And she's in love with this guy, and she's just like, too much, And then there's something that will come out in the next few months about my character that she should not have been like at all. I'm going to have to now be like, she's been performing the whole time, like it is a different animal. It's a different beast as far as like how you prepare as an actor. But the other actors are they're such a family. And they just knock on your door like, "Hey, want to run lines?" Like, I was like, "You didn't call first?" Like, I didn't know that it's like that much of a community. It's like being in theater again. There's just such camaraderie with everyone. And we're in the hallways talking, and like, it's really cute and warm and yummy and charming. And I am just enjoying so much having a new experience of what I can bring to a different type of show, because it is shot very differently, and the experience, it's this mix of theater and film and TV. So there's a sense of like, when you're on, you get one take. It's like you are going on stage to perform on Broadway, off Broadway, like you don't get to do it again, no pressure. Obviously, if you ask to do it again, they will. But the rule is we do it once. You rehearse it and then you do it. And so there's an understanding that you need to be on it and ready to go. So it definitely keeps you on your toes. And I love the challenge. And I mean, hats off to my co-stars who have been there for 40 years, but 10 years, 5 years, like doing the amount of material. They film 110 pages a day.
Whoa.
Just for context, on 90210, we did 7 pages a day. 9 pages was a really long, crazy day that we often didn't finish.
How many hours is 110? Like,
well,
what?
It should be more, but they shoot with 3 cameras. And like I said, you get one take. So they are like, we want to be out of here by 5 p.m. Like, it's like 7 to 7. It's like 12 hours for the crew, but the actors were never there that long. And so it's really, as a 37-year-old woman, which I am, it is a very nice thing to have a schedule where I get to also have dinner and, a life, and have a week off, 2 weeks off every month to be able to plan my retreats. So it's really cool.
Actual time to pursue your passions.
Yes, I get to have life and work. It's awesome.
Oh, well, AnnaLynne, you've been talking to Mary now for like 2 hours. We want to be mindful of your time. We're just so grateful. I mean, you are such an icon. Mary and I grew up watching you on our screens and talking to you. I mean, you just are so lovely. And we've been following your career and all of the amazing things that you're doing to give back in such unique and amazing ways. And we're rooting for you and for the success of your organization and your retreats. You may see both of us on one sometime soon. You never know.
Please. You are more than invited.
Well, thank you so much again for your time. We're just so grateful.
Thank you for having me. I love spending my time with Cancers and Capricorns. So this is a delight. You guys have a beautiful evening, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
We would love it.
Literally. We would love that so much.
Awesome.
Thanks, AnnaLynne.
Thank you.
So that was our conversation with the AnnaLynne McCord. If you aren't in love with her by the end of this episode, like, I can't help you. What an incredible storyteller. So down to earth, so hilarious. She's the kind of person that you want to be friends with in real life. I'm just like amazed. So if you love this episode, please make sure to rate us. We're on Apple Pods. Leave us a review. Make sure you're following us on When They Popped Pod on IG and TikTok. And thank you so much for listening and supporting the amazing work that AnnaLynne does. We'll be linking to her website in the show notes of today's episode if you are interested, you want to learn more. And we'll also be linking to her Instagram handle if you want to learn more about the amazing work that she's doing to give back to these communities that really need support. Thank you again for listening. Love ya. Bye.